Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to a new series I'm doing now. I really wanted to do something Asian inspired because I am extremely inspired by Asian architecture and art. So I've been wanting to do something with an Asian theme for some time. So this is Sing Fu Shan, which is Lucky Mountain or Happy Hill or something along those lines. So right now I'm making, actually, you can see right now I'm making some hanging lanterns. I'm also going to make a wall, and then I'm going to make what's called a paifang, which is a gateway you'll be familiar with once you see what I'm doing. The level of detail in this park is going to be probably very high. Which is one of the reasons why that's one of the reasons I do these sort of mini projects where it's just one area, maybe a ride or two, some shops and so forth. The last project I did was Fallen Rocks. This one will be a little more detailed than that. I'll probably have a little bit more going on, although it'll take up less area, I think. The plan is to include at least one flat ride, which I'm making a building to cover, and there will be a suspended coaster in the mountains, most likely called Dragon's Breath. We'll see about that, though. I haven't even all I've gotten so far was to try to make some gates and some lanterns in this paifang, which we're going to get to in a minute. So this is going to take a while because this video, the footage that I shot for this video has taken me hours. Number one, because I generally don't do such detailed builds, and I'm not familiar with all the pieces as well as I could be, so it takes me a long time just to find stuff. So there's a lot of stuff left out. There's a lot of cut footage, but just everything that I filmed in this video probably took me between maybe 10 hours. So it's going to take a while. So this is going to be a slower series, something that I can work on in the background, pop up a video every now and then in between my other projects, my other videos from parks and so forth. But I am looking forward to it because I intend to do a good job on this. I have a building, an ancient Chinese building, I believe from the Qing dynasty, that I'm really influenced by. And I think this is going to turn out really well. So be sure to stick around and see how it comes out, because so far I'm really happy with it. So with that being said, what we've done so far is create the hanging lanterns on a wall, and now I'm working on the paifang, which is the entrance gate. And you can see here that this is the name of the park, the Sing Fu Shan. I had someone a friend, Randy actually, who speaks Chinese natively, write this out for me. He and I came up with the name actually together. So one thing, PSA. Seriously, if you're going to get a tattoo of any kind of Asian characters or any foreign language for that matter, make sure you get someone that speaks it natively to tell you it means what you think it means. Because let me just leave that alone. Just don't go to the tattoo parlor and get what they tell you the character for courage is or anything like that, because more than likely it's gibberish. And now watch someone come and tell me, oh, well, that doesn't actually mean Sing Fu Shan. But at least I had someone who was a native speaker do it for me. So I used the technique. He wrote it down for me. I imported it, and now I'm using the art pieces. You could see I was trying to fool around before, trying to come up with a way to do this simply. Unfortunately, there really wasn't any way to do that because of the intricacy of the characters and the writing. And I didn't really want it to look blocky. I wanted it to look sort of like calligraphy if I could. So I ended up using the edge of the half moon piece, and you can see I skipped ahead there because the video was really getting boring. It was just me doing this really detailed work over and over and over. Excuse me. So I was pretty happy with the way this turns out. It looks kind of it doesn't look as much like calligraphy as I would like it, but I was able to make it look a bit like that. So I'm pretty happy with the way this comes out, especially considering this is the first time I've ever tried to do a custom sign like this using the art pieces. It was more of a pain in the ass than I anticipated it to be, and definitely you can see here once I finished, I made sure to save that in a separate little building, so if I had to redo it or anything like that, it wouldn't be too much problem. So the easy part of the paifang has been done now. Now I'm going to start on the more difficult part, which will be the roof in just a minute. I figured it would be difficult to do the roof. It was more difficult than I anticipated, and it took a lot more time than I anticipated. But in the end, I'm very happy with the result. I think it turned out very well. The one thing I noticed here was the scale was a little bit off, and I do make some changes to this off camera that you won't see, but you'll see in the final product, where I lower it just a little bit, just to keep the proportions accurate, or at least as accurate as you can make them in Planet Coaster. And I am very, like I said, I'm happy with the way it came out. And I did also change the color, which you will see at the end. The whole time I'm filming this, it's sort of a greenish, or green and sort of a golden, maybe yellow oranges color, and I ended up changing the orange to red, just because the building that I mentioned earlier that I want to base this park on is green and red. So I decided, well, let me just keep the colors the same throughout. So I think I'm going to go back as well on the fence in the background there that you can see, and change the yellow portions to green. I'll keep the lanterns the color they are, though. Obviously, red and yellow are colors that are used often in Chinese culture. Red is considered very lucky, and yellow is an imperial color. So I actually did some research last night on the different meanings of colors in Chinese culture, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't using anything that was inaccurate. And I know that the building that I'm doing this on was red and green. So anyway, here we get started on the roof. So I was anticipating that this was going to be difficult. I wanted to make a sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? The roof that I was using, the picture that I was using for an inspiration had this sort of textured roof like that, and I thought, wow, that was easy to create. So I thought I was off to a good start here, and I was. The problem came when I started working on the corners, which I'm sure everyone is aware in Asian architecture. Excuse me. In Asian architecture, the corners usually turn upwards. That is called, or they're called flying eaves, which I think is a really cool name. Before starting this project, I had heard the reason that they do that is because to ward off evil spirits, supposedly, because spirits couldn't travel in curved lines or something like this. I actually did some more research and discovered, according to several sources, that is incorrect, that the actual reason for the flying eaves is utilitarian, because it helps allow more light into the building in the winter due to the angle of the sun, and then it helps the bigger roofs keep the building more covered in the summer, so it stays cooler. So apparently this business of it being something to do with spirits is all a bunch of hokey, but they look cool anyway. So I got this part done. I used the art shapes to create the little supports at the bottom. I like the way that came out, and I have to say, I've seen a lot of people use art shapes before, especially like, say, someone like SP Ridley, who obviously is a master of art shapes. And I have not used them too often, but I use them more in this build than I have in the past, and I think I might keep doing it because it's an easy way to make some interesting shapes. The one thing I wish, though, probably like everyone else, is that we had some smaller art shapes, but you got to work with what you got. So I use them to some good effect throughout here. A very simple effect, obviously. So here we go. Here comes the hard part. Like I said, I was anticipating this being difficult. In no way did I imagine it would be as difficult as it turned out to be. Probably because I was just not understanding exactly the mechanics of how these flying eaves work on the corners. So I was just trying to copy everything over in a straight line, as you can see right here, and that just does not work. So here, for the next few minutes, you're going to just see footage of me trying to figure out what do I do. So I eventually built up the bottom portion right there to serve as a guide. And then I discovered, okay, I'm going to have to start rotating these pieces in multiple directions because they have to go from one angle there where they meet the straight portion of the roof to a different angle where they meet the curved portion of the flying eave. So here you'll see me just fooling around with it a few times trying to get that accurate, and eventually I got it done. The one thing I discovered was that I probably should have started from the top of that portion. It would have been simpler to do this sort of rotating and whatnot. I did that on the second side, which is not in this footage, because it was just the same thing over. I just left that out, but I discovered it was much easier to work from the top down than it was from the bottom up. And the side right there, we will see me do that in this video, and that was much simpler than I thought it was going to be once I got the basic technique down. This looks a little messy right here, but I do fix that up later because I'm going to use this as a template for the rest of the flying eaves that I use throughout this build, and I'm going to be using a lot of them, so I am not doing that over if I don't have to. I could probably do it much faster now if I had to, but it's still a pain in the butt, and the more I can copy and paste, the better. So you see, once again, I deleted everything. I was like, wait, this is still not right. It still doesn't look good. So I continue to fool around with it, and eventually I do get it right. So let's see. The one thing that I want to mention is that, like I said, I'm going to change the color of this. There'll be some just some glamour shot. There'll be a glamour shot at the end where you can see that I changed the color of this because I wanted it to incorporate red. I have seen these colors used in Chinese buildings, this sort of orangish and greenish, but it wasn't working for me. The red looked better once I changed it, and you'll see that. If you don't agree, you can comment and let me know that you disagree, because I actually saved one of each. I have this color and I have the red color, both. So obviously if I did all that work, I am not getting rid of it. And that was something I've said this before in other videos about just sticking to it, because there were times during this part especially where I was getting very frustrated. But I mean, if you've done anything custom or worked on anything for a long time, there's a real satisfaction you get when it comes out looking decent, and it comes out looking like what you imagined it to be. And I really had that feeling after I worked on this. And I shared the picture or a screenshot of it with the folks over on the Bro Nation Discord channel, and I got a lot of likes on it, which I was quite happy about, because I wasn't sure if anyone was going to like it, or they said, oh, we've seen that before already, everyone's done Asian, blah 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 blah. But I haven't done Asian, so I wanted to do it. And mentioning Bro Nation Discord, if you haven't joined that, you really should. I think I've posted on different forums. I've for both No Limits 2 and for Planet Coaster, and it just seems like a good group over there. I joined a little while ago, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, shortly after it went live, and it really does seem like a good group of people, and everyone's very friendly and welcoming, and there's a lot of feedback. So I'm looking forward to posting more on that group. So if you haven't seen that yet, check it out. Or if you haven't joined it yet, check it out, because I think it's worth it, especially if you enjoy seeing some of the best people in Planet Coaster share their ideas and so forth. So here we are. This part was actually easy. I thought this was going to be even worse than the other part, because the roof has to curve inward and then downward as well. And this was actually much simpler than I thought it was going to be. Like I said, I started from the top. You can see already it looks much better, much cleaner. And then I just traced out a path that I wanted it to go, and basically deleted some of the pieces that were outside of that path and cleaned it up a little bit. And it was way easier than I thought it was going to be. So I'll finish that up in just a second. And then I do not finish the other side on camera, just because I thought I've already done it. You don't need to see it. And it actually took me, once I figured out the technique, it actually took me much less time to do it. So you can see how simple basically that was. Just a little bit of rotating, and then I clean it up right here. And that side is pretty much done. And then with this little piece separate, I separated it out into its own building just so I have it automatically. You can see me doing that right there. And then it's just copying and pasting, putting it all together, making sure it looks neat, making a few little changes here and there. and adding some decorations to the building. So I'm really happy with how this came out. Probably if I had thought, you know how it is, sometimes you imagine what you want something to be, and it doesn't come out looking quite how you wanted it to look. But in this case, I have to say I'm pretty pleased. That I might have make a few little changes here and there, some minor things, but overall I'm pretty happy with this. I think it looks pretty good. And feel free to let me know what you think of it. Any kind of feedback is always welcome. So I finished this up, just added a little bit of decorations on the side, and then it's just a matter of copying and pasting this around. I did actually lower the whole structure a little bit just because it was a little too tall and the proportions seemed a little strange to me. And the one thing I would actually, if you want to give me feedback, I feel like the feet on this thing are too big. I might need to change that. I feel like they're just a little bit out of proportion. But otherwise, it looks pretty good to me. I'll continue working on this series. It's going to take a while, but hang in there. I got a lot of other stuff coming. I'm still working on the Siren Song. I'll have more coaster reviews, coaster videos. I'm going to Dorney Park and Knoebels in just about 3 weeks. So there's a lot coming up, so stick around. In the meantime, here is some glamour shots for you. I hope you like them. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the ride.